Hope you all are good. We are here for grade 9 math. You can find all the lessons on aplusstudents.com. You have to log in there using your email address and password is provided by the administrator. Then you have to select math from the subject tab. Scroll down to grade 9 and then click on view all lessons. So there you can find the list of the chapters. We're going to start with the chapter radical expressions, and the lessons we're going to cover today are simplify radical expressions using a distributive property, simplify radical expressions, mixed review, and divide radical expressions, right? So please make sure before the next session, please make sure you have your notebook and pencil so that you can note down the important examples and definitions as well, right? Let's just start with the first lesson, that is simplify radical expressions using the distributive property. Okay, the first one is multiply square root 3 times negative x minus square root 2, right? So yes, you have to use the multiplication property of the square roots. Like you can write them, you can multiply the value, multiply the radical that is outside the bracket with everything that is inside the bracket. So the question is square root 3 times 8 minus negative 8 minus square root 2, right? So you need to, you can multiply, that is distributive property, you can multiply square root 3 to negative x and square root 3 to negative square root 2, right? So that is negative 8 times square root 3 is negative 8 square root 3, and negative square root 2 times negative square root 3, you can write them in same square root. So that is negative 8 square root 3 minus 3 times 2 is 6, that is square root 6, right? So the answer is negative 8 square root 3 minus square root 6. Got it? Let's just start with the test questions. Okay, multiply. Square root 3 times negative 9 plus square root 2, right? So you have to apply the distributive property over here. You need to multiply the term that is outside the bracket with everything that is inside the bracket, right? So you have to do square root 3 times negative 9, that would be negative, that would be, what's wrong, that would be negative 9 square root 3. Then you have to multiply negative 3 and negative 2, square root negative 3 and square root negative 2. You can write them in the same square root, right? You can do like this, 3 times 2. So that is negative 9 square root 3 and plus square root 6. So the correct option is option number 2. Got it? Option number 2 is the correct option. That is negative 9 square root 3 plus square root 6. Option number 2 is the correct option. Option number 2 is the correct option. Got it? The next one is multiply negative square root 2 Negative square root 2 times negative 2 minus square root 2. So which is the correct option? The correct option is option number. Yes, that is option number 2, right? Because the square root that is outside the bracket is negative, right? So that makes the everything inside positive, right? So that is the second one. 2 square root 2. No, option number 1 is the correct option. 2 square root 2 plus 2. Option number 1 is the correct option. The next one is multiply square root 3 times negative 5 minus square root 2. So which is the correct option? The correct option is negative 5 square root 3 and minus square root 6. Option number 1 is the correct option. Very good. The correct option is option number 1. Multiply negative square root 5 times negative 9 minus square root 2. So which is the correct option? Which option is the correct one? Yes, the correct option is option number 2. That is 9 square root 5 plus square root 10. Option number 2 is the correct option. Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. And the next lesson is simplify radical expressions mixed review. So let's just start with the lesson. Okay, the first one is subtract 6 square root 2 minus square root 2. So basically when we are adding or subtracting the radicals, we have to look for the like terms. Like terms means the terms that have the same radicals, right? So they both have same radicals. You have negative 6 square root 2 and square root 2, right? You can take square root 2 common and subtract. Here you have negative 1. So negative 6 minus 1, right? So negative 6 minus 1 is negative 7. So the answer is negative 7 square root 2. Got it? Let's just start with the test questions. simplify square root 350. Okay, let's just see how do we. Basically, we have to make the prime factors of the number that is written inside the um, square root, right? So let's just make the factors. 7 times 5 is 35. So we can go for, we know that 7 times 5, but 7 times 50. So that is 7 times 5, 35. 35 times 2 is 70. And 70 times 5 is 35, right? These are the prime numbers. Got it? You can write. Hello. Okay. So basically, you have to make the prime factors of the number that is given inside the square root, right? Like I made the prime factors for 350. Let me just, that is, these are the prime factors for 350. They are 7 times 2 times 5 square. You can write the 5 square in the separate square root because 2 and square root got cancel out each other, right? So that is 5 square root 14. Hello. Okay. The next one is simplify 147 f4. Assume f is greater than or equal to 0, right? So let's just factor out 147 f4. You need to make the prime factors of 147, right? Okay. Yes, they are, the prime factors for 147 is 7 times 7 times 3, right? And you can write it as f square and square, right? So that is 7 square, f square, and you can write f square, square, and you can write 3 because you cannot factor out, cancel the square root of 3. So 2 square root and 2 square root, you are left with 7 f square and square root 3. Got it? So the correct option is 7 f square and square root 3. Option number 2 is the correct option, that is 7f square times square root 3. The next one is minus square root 7 minus 7 square root 7. So which is the correct option? You can subtract the question in your notebook and write the answer in the chat box. Which is the correct option? The correct option is, yes, that is negative 8 square root 7 is the correct option. Option number 1 is the correct option. That is negative 8 square root 7. Yes. The next one is square root 315. So you have to make the prime factors of 315, right? So let's just see what are the prime factors you can make for 315, right? So square root 315. Okay, you can divide it by the 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Yes, hold on. Uh, yes, that is. Hold on, let me just see. Okay, yes, they are. 3 times 7 times 5, right? When you multiply them, they make 315, right? So you can write 3 square and 7 times 5, right? So 2 and square root cancel out. You are left with 3 square root 35. So the correct option is 3 square root 35. Got it? Option number 2 is the correct option. Got it? The next one is square root 18, which is the correct option. The correct option is, yes, that is option number 1, right? 3 square root 2 is the correct option. Option number 1 is the correct option. Okay, the next one is 84k 5. So which is the correct option? Which is the correct option? Yes, that's the second one. 2k square times square root 20. 1k. Option number 2 is the correct option. Got it? The correct option is option number 2. Very good. The next one is negative 9 square root 3 plus square root 3, which is the correct option. Which option is the correct one? Yes, the correct option is negative 8 square root 3. Option number 2 is the correct option, right? The next one is subtract negative 3 square root 5 minus 8 square root 5. So, which is the correct option? Which is the correct option? Yes, that is negative 11 square root 5. Option number 2 is the correct option. Eight square root 3 plus 8 square root 3, which is the correct option? Yes, the correct option is 16 square root 3. Option number 1 is the correct option, right? The next one is simplify 490 J7, which is the correct option. That is, yes, that is option number 1, 7j cube times square root 10j. Option number 2 is the correct option, right? Option number 2, option number 1 is the correct option, 7j cube times 10. The correct option is option number 1. Okay, the next one is square root 343. So, which is the correct option? Which option is the correct one? Hmm, that is the second one. 7 square root 7, right? Because you can factor out 343 like. Hmm, hold on. You have 343, right? You can 7 times 7 is 49, and 49 times 7 is 7 times 9 is 63. 3 6 carry 7 yes, that is 7 times 7 times 7. So you can write 7 square times square root 7, and yes, that is 7 square root 7, right? Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. Let me just move on to next lesson. The next one is divide radical expressions. So let's just start with the next lesson, that is divide radical expressions. Okay, let's just start with the practice questions. Okay, the first one is 7 divided by 4 minus square root 3. You have to rationalize the denominator. So, how do we rationalize the denominator? We have to multiply it by the conjugate. Conjugate means exactly the same thing, just with the opposite sign, because you need to remove the decimal from the, you need to remove the radical from the denominator. Let me just do it on board, right? 7 over 4 minus square root 3. 7 divided by 4 minus square root 3. You have to remove the square root from the denominator, right? So you have to rationalize. Rationalize means you need to multiply and divide with the conjugate. And conjugate is 4 minus square root 3. And the conjugate is 4 plus square root 3. You need to multiply and divide with the conjugate, right? This way you can remove the radical from the decimal. When you multiply the numerator, that is 7 times 4 plus square root 3, and when you multiply the denominator, that is a minus b, and that is a plus b. When you have a minus b and a plus b, you can write it as a square minus b square. So you can write it as 4 square minus square root 3. 2 and square root got cancel out, right? So 4 square is 7 times 4 plus square root 3, that is 4 times 4 square is 16 minus 3, so that is 7 times 4 plus square root 3, and 16 minus 3 is 13. This way you can remove the square root from the denominator. Got it? Let's just start with the test question. Why we rationalize? Because we need to remove the decimal point from the denominator. Let's just start with the test questions, or either you can multiply the numerator. Okay, the next one is 4 divided by 4 minus square root 5. Okay, 6 divided by, so you need to multiply it by the conjugate, multiply and divide by conjugate, right? So the conjugate is 4 plus square root 5, and multiply and divide by 4 plus square root 5, right? So you can do 6 times 4 plus square root 5, and a minus b, a plus b. You can write a square, that is 4 square, minus square root 5 square. 2 and square root cancel out. You are left with, you can multiply 6 times 4 is 24, and 6 times square root 5 is 6 square root 5. And here you have 4 times 4 is 16, 16 minus 5. So that is 24 plus 6 square root 5, and 16 minus 5 is 11. Got it? So the correct option is option number the correct option is 24 plus 6 square root 5 over 11. That is option number 1 is the correct option. Got it? Okay, the next one, you can solve the question on your notebook and write down the answer in the chat box. So, which is the correct option? Which is the correct option? You just have to change the sign, that is like minus 6 plus square root 3. So, you need to multiply with minus 6 minus square root 3, right? You just have to change the sign that is between the radical and the number, right? So, the correct option is yes, that's option number one is the correct option, right? That is negative 48 minus 8 square root 3 divided by 33. Option number one is the correct option. Okay, I forgot to click on the OK button. The next one is simplify 7 divided by 4 minus square root 3. So, which is the correct option? The correct option is yes, that's the second one. 28 plus 7 square root 3 divided by 13. Option number 2 is the correct option, right? Got it? The correct option is the second one. Okay, the next one is 3 divided by 2 minus square root 3. So, which is the correct option? The correct option is option number option number 2 is the correct option, right? That is 6 plus 3 square root 3 divided by, because 4 minus 3 is 1. So option number 2 is the correct option. Got it? Very good. The next one is simplify negative 4 divided by 10 plus square root 2. So which is the correct option? That is option number 2, 20 plus 2 square root 2 divided by 2. But why square root 49 is the... Yes, that is the second one, right? Okay, you can complete the lesson by yourself later today. So we were working on grade 9 math. Chapter we're working on is radical expressions, and the lessons we have covered today are simplify radical expressions using distributive property, simplify radical expressions, mixed review, and divide radical expressions, right? So please make sure before the next session you can complete all the practice questions for the lessons we just did. That is your homework until next session, right? So if you need more help with any of the lesson, you can contact any tutor on the Skype. They are available from Monday to Friday 5 to 9. Or either you can join me in the interactive session that would be daily from 4 to 5 and from 9 to 10, right? So if you have any questions related to the lessons we have just finished, you can ask. I'm here to answer all your questions and confusions if you have any. Any questions you can please ask. No questions. Okay, that's all for today.